Welcome to The Recovering Perfectionist, where you'll learn all the hacks you need to get started and finished on your business or project. You'll connect with successful entrepreneurs who are in perfectionist rehab, unapologetically experimenting and balancing life, business, family, and me time. I'm your host and Chief Recovering Perfectionist, Claire Barton. Hey everyone, it's Claire Barton from The Recovering Perfectionist, and I have got Melanie Midegs here with me today. And Melanie is a business mentor and marketing specialist who teaches the Business Chakra System amongst millions and millions of other things. How are you going, Mel?
I'm great. How are you? So lovely to be here and chatting with you again.
Oh, it's so good to have you here. I absolutely adore all of your work, as you know, and I'll tell everyone a bit more about that in a minute. But before I do you want to tell us a bit more about you and who you are and what you do and what your beautiful business is all about?
Sure. So it said my name is Melanie Midegs and I am a business mentor and marketing specialist, and I have created this awesome system called the Business Chakra System, which I teach. So I teach it via workshops and an online course. And basically that's the core of my business, because it's about bringing personal development and business development together. And I've got a healing background. And so through my own marketing muddy, messy mayhem, I had to sort of delve into my emotional realms to understand my fears and things. And that's how I created the Business Chakra System. So I really help people to sort of bring the spiritual aspects of business together with the practicalities of what they need to do to get things rocking and rolling.
Oh, that's beautiful. Lovely articulation. And so you and I guess we've known each other for a couple of years in the online world, and I finally got to meet you twice in the last couple of months. The first time was in Bali.
Yes.
In December when I was there holidaying for Christmas. It was completely divine. We had a lovely breakfast.
I know. And actually, I went there yesterday.
Oh, that was lovely. Lovely. I keep telling people about this beautiful fish burrito that I had in Bali. Really, really yummy. And then I was lucky enough to come along to your Business Chakra workshop in Brisbane back in February. A couple of months ago. Yeah. And it completely blew my mind, and I walked away feeling completely enlightened, and also like a whole new world had kind of opened up to me in terms of understanding myself and understanding my business and that sort of thing. So, you know, it's definitely been a complete eye-opener for me. As I don't know, you probably know my background. I also was a massage therapist, so I also kind of had an alternative therapy background. But most of what I've been doing in my entire life has been business. So I totally get the whole marriage of bringing the two things together. I've talked on the podcast before about how I thought that I had to keep them completely separate because one world wouldn't get the other and all that sort of thing. And now I realize in retrospect, they balance each other so beautifully, and they almost, in terms of, you know, being an entrepreneur, you have to have a balance of both of those if you want to maintain your sanity and your personal well-being and your health and all of that sort of thing.
Totally
a thing. So so I'm super excited to be able to share the Business Chakra System with the Recovering Perfectionist listeners. So I guess just tell us what it is and how does it work and where did it come from, and how does it all do its thing?
How did it do its thing? It's interesting you were just saying, you know, getting the balance and sort of being that pendulum of, you know, falling into the more spiritual healing realms and then thinking that business has to be separate. And I actually remember before I even became an entrepreneur and I was working in the 9 to 5, I used to call myself like a modern day hippie, because it was like my personal life, everyone knew me as this hippie Mel, and then in the corporate world I'd, you know, dress up and do my thing. So I guess on some level, and I always believe that our little stepping stones along the way, even if we realize it or not, are always bringing us to the place that we are now. So, you know, and I think that's why the Business Chakra System, I love it so much, because it really does. It brings those two elements together. In terms of creating it, it wasn't something that I just thought up of and my business started that way. No way. Holy moly. So I did start out, totally. I started out as a psychosomatic therapist, which is where I learned about the body-mind connection. So this is where I learned how to do face reading, body reading, like everything in your body actually relates to a chakra and is telling you something about yourself. And I just find that work Amazing. Yes, I'm reading your face right now.
Oh, seriously, part of it just makes me want to put a bag over my head and be like, oh my God, what's she thinking? What's she think? Do you know, actually, just to digress for a second, the very first interaction I think I ever had with you as like a two-sided thing, rather than me just stalking you around the internet, was you didn't offer in one of the groups to do, I think, like 5 free face readings to the first 5 people who put their like selfie up or whatever. And it was back in the day where I was still really uncomfortable with selfies and showing up online and all that sort of thing. But I was like, oh, I'm really interested in this. So I put my photo up, and I think I was a little bit late, but you did it anyway, very graciously, and it was really gorgeous. And I still had that saved. I actually cut and pasted it and emailed it to myself. And I still had it saved until about 3 weeks ago, when I finally organized, everything in my inbox into a proper place. But I cut and pasted that into another place in Evernote, because it was so spot on, and it really, I don't know, it really just sort of struck a nerve, because it was so accurate, and it wasn't just like some horoscope accurate that could actually be read by anyone. It was so in depth and so, I don't know, different to anything that I'd ever come across before. So it really stuck out to me. And so I'm definitely a big fan of that. It was amazing. It was just like, I thought it was like, you read people's palms, and I've heard a foot reader. I've never heard of a face reader. What are you talking about? You must be crazy. And then you got it completely right. I was like, oh, I better pay attention to this girl. Yeah. This is the thing.
It is amazing, because, like, I guess on some level, I don't really do face reading too much anymore, but on some level, there is an intuitive part that comes into play. But in actual fact, it's just reading the shapes of the body. And this is why I love it so much, because we are a reflection of what's going on for us. Like, whatever is going on the inside, we are reflecting it to the outside world. It's just up to the person if they know how to read it or not. Even you would face read to some degree when you go into a room. You can pick up on, type of personality people will be.
Totally, yeah.
But what I love most about it, and I will get back to the Business Chakra System.
That's okay.
What I love most about it was it taught me compassion. Because, like, particularly those people that are really hard, hard people, like they're strict, they could be a little bit direct and all those sorts of things. In particular, there's a reason for it. Like, they're not that way because they want to piss everybody off. They're that way because, they've had things that have happened to them, and they've really just got their guard up. So learning how to do it made me understand the difference between feminine and masculine energy, understanding by looking at someone, wow, they've been through a hard time, and they've obviously got to work through some stuff. And I think when I was doing the face reading quite a lot for my business, no wonder, because I actually used to hate the part of it I didn't like was when it wasn't like I would make someone cry, but because I would see them for who they were, they would have an emotional response to it, and that kind of used to upset me, because I didn't want to upset them just because someone was really seeing them. Yeah. It's not very often that we do that in this day and age.
It's really vulnerable. Yeah.
It's really so that's my teaching background of, the healing space. And I was actually living on the Sunshine Coast, and I had a clinic that I would work in, but I was finding that, the clients I was working with, they were sort of in that depressed kind of state, which was fine. Like, I really want to help them, but it wasn't my ideal of a fun way for me to live my life.
Sure, yeah.
Always loved the online world. So through my little hurdles and things, eventually I ended up here in Bali, Indonesia. Because my clinic work wasn't really running well, and so I had to have a part-time job, and that just drove me insane. So it was taking my time away from what I wanted to do, and I had to go and do something else. So I sold everything, packed my bags, came over here to Bali, and just went full on into creating this online business that I had absolute no structure to when I first got here. So it was just like a mishmash of I don't know what, helping people with their website, helping people with their MailChimp, like talking about reading.
I know the feeling.
Oh my God, it was so. When I think back, like someone said to me, wow. I've had many people say, you're so courageous to go and do that. At the time, I just knew what I wanted to do. And now, and now when I look back, I'm like, if I knew what I knew now, would I have actually done that?
I know.
I'm not quite sure I would have, but it's all taken me to this place, right? Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Thank God you didn't know back then, some of the things that you know now.
But that's probably the thing for a lot of entrepreneurs too. Like, you don't know what you're stepping into, and you don't know how it's going to play out. And I think I also say that, you know, creating your own business is the biggest personal development journey you'll ever go on. Like, I thought I'd done all the work kind of thing, but, you know, going to fit the business for yourself, that's when you really learn.
That's it.
And I guess that's how the Business Chakra System came about, because I was dropping into fear continuously. It was paralyzing me. It was a real cycle that I wasn't enjoying. And I remember the day I was sitting out the front of my house, I don't know, not knowing how I was going to pay my rent that month or something. There was something that I needed to pay. I couldn't pay it. And I was just tired of it. I was like, this is just ridiculous. Like, why does this keep happening? And I realized, I went, well, instead of thinking about the strategy of business, why don't you go back to your learnings about the chakra system? You know, base chakra, you need to feel supported. How can you feel supported in yourself? So I looked at it for me personally and also from a business perspective. And then it kind of all just fell into place. Like, each of the chakras really lined up to different aspects of the business. And I was like, this is actually pretty cool. And because I love marketing, I love branding, and I love business as well. So to have organically created something out of my own despair and, you know, grasping at straws, like, it's actually, that's how everything has really come about. So
it's amazing. And it's an interesting thing when I see, you know, yourself and other people who have these amazing kind of methodologies or practical applications of a mix of different methodologies or a mix of different modalities. And I think, I want one of those. I want to have one of those. I want to create a thing that I can just, it's like got my stamp on it and that sort of thing. And I know that's not how it happens. You don't just go out and set out to create a thing. Well, I'm totally looking forward to it.
If you've got the intention there's a percolation process. I mean, like, from that first day, I remember that day when I sort of wrote it out, like, it has changed quite a lot. Like, it's been about it's probably been 2 years actually since I actually did that. And so it's progressed through that. So I think you got to have the intention. Because you've got the intention, eventually the right little...
That's so true. Motivation, inspiration hits you. Well, I've got the intention, universe. It's out there. All right. So what is it and how does it work? Like, you know, for someone who, like me, before I came to your workshop, was a complete novice and, you know, I could spell chakra, but that was about where it finished for me. How does it work? What is it? What is it? What's the thing?
Yeah. So basically I've chunked down each of the chakras into 3 kind of aspects. So there's the energetic side, which is how it relates to you emotionally. There's the mindset side, so how your mind thinks within that chakra energy. And then there's the business framework that comes along with it. So, for example, the base chakra is all to do about foundations and how you feel supported within yourself. So the energetic side of things, we look at the emotions of fear, overwhelm, and anxiety. So if in your business you ever drop into those emotions, you know, you can come to the base chakra kind of aspect of your business and you can sort out how to sort of shift through the emotion. We talk about the mindset. So it could be like you have a scarcity mindset or something like that, lack mentality. It's like, how can you shift that? And for me, you know, there's so many tools you can do to shift your mindset, say like with tapping or, you know, whatever, journaling or NLP and all sorts of things. But for me, it's really about changing your perspective. I think there's a lot of power if you can actually, because you can't always have a therapist by your side to take you through some process. Like sometimes it's like, I know. Sometimes you just got to change your mind and like turn it around.
Yeah.
And then the foundations for that, like the aspects are, say, your knowing who your ideal customer is, your goals, and then also your business model. So that's sort of the base chakra. I won't go through all of them because it is pretty full on. But in terms of the different chakras, so then the sacral chakra, which is around your hip area, it's nice and juicy. It's actually my favorite. And that's all about branding. So you've got to love what you do. You've got to love how you operate. You've got to love, you know, how you serve your clients and how they're responding to what it is that you have. If the love ain't there and you're not enjoying it, then it's not going to fly. Your solar plexus, which is just above your belly button. This is all about personal power. So our confidence comes from when we really know what it is that we're doing. So this is related to your product and service. Like when you know what your offerings are inside and out, it's so easy to talk about them. When there's confusion or you're not quite sure, or you have like 20 things that you're offering yourself, like it's you know, it just makes it so much easier when it's clear, precise, and you can just say what it is. Heart chakra, promotion. So this is about connecting with people. It's about compassion. It's about, you know, coming from a heart space and knowing that it's okay to sell yourself, particularly if you're going to be able to help somebody else. You know, there's a nice way to do it. And I actually picked that on purpose because I know that people get thingy, because, you know, I specialize with healers and yoga teachers and spiritual mentors and those sorts of people and coaches, and it's like, that's sort of like the first thing that they can start to think, oh, but I don't want to sell myself. But it's actually okay. It's really okay. Throat chakra, communication. So getting clear on your message, being able to say what it is, not getting too creative. That's the other thing I know a lot of people can get so creative with everything, and it's like,
so what do you do?
Yeah, totally. I used to call myself the creative inspirator, and they're like, that sounds cool, but what the hell is that?
How are you going to help me? Yeah,
totally. So, you know, just getting really clear with that messaging, but also speaking your truth, right? So your truth comes from here. So I think in business development too, you go through phases of you get yourself to a level and you're like, actually, that's not it, and you need to shift it. Your real truth needs to start coming out, which may be a little bit about like what you sort of went through when you came to the workshops as well. The brow chakra is intuition, but I align this to leadership. So leadership is not only about leading your tribe and leading your people, it's actually being a leader for yourself and trusting you know the answers. Like, oh my God, we can learn from other people, but no one is going to give you that magic pill to get it done. Like, we're all different. So how can we possibly build a business that is exactly the same based on exactly what someone else has done? So really being able to trust yourself and tap into that inner knowing is important. And then finally your crown chakra, which is at the top of your head, you know, connected to source, universe, whatever you want to call it. It's really about your purpose. So it's about your vision. So knowing that there's a bigger vision ahead, knowing how to sort of chunk it down. You know, don't get too overwhelmed, like, because that's the other thing. You can get these huge downloads, and I believe, like, if you think it, it's happening, right? You don't have a thought about something that isn't possible. So, you know, don't necessarily get too overwhelmed when you know you can see yourself traveling the world, talking on stages, whatever that thing is for you. You know, there's baby steps to actually make that happen. So doing that. That's basically the chakra of business.
It's beautiful. And it, like you said, it is so in-depth. Like, we literally spent an entire day going through each of those in a really, really in-depth kind of way, and exploring what it meant for each of us in our business journey, where we're at the time, and all that sort of thing. So there's obviously a hell of a lot more to do with that. But I have two questions. And the first one is, a lot of people talk about this word or this phrase, up-leveling. Like, when you've sort of just touched on it there, where you kind of get to a point, you're like, either that's not it, or I'm at a place, but it's still not the place I'm supposed to be at. So where does that kind of fit in with your business chakra system? And what do you do with people when they kind of get to that point where, you know, they're a bit sort of stuck and they're trying to move forward, or they're trying to get to the next thing, or cut something away, or, you know, whatever. What's the Mel Midegs version of that?
Sure. Yeah, it's your first three chakras are the most important. So your base, sacral, and solar plexus. So your foundations, your branding, and your product. So I think you know, if you're feeling stuck and you want to really take the next step, and you want to, there's sort of two things. There's sort of two different elements to that. So if you're feeling stuck, you always go back to your base chakra. Who's your ideal customer? What is it that you're serving, and what do you actually want to achieve, and do you have the plan to make that happen? And then it's amazing. Once you've got a clear plan, then it's just about actioning it, right? Doing it. When it comes to up leveling, what I see that as is, in the first instance, business is messy. It's just going to be messy. As much as we love organizing, I know you've got a you know, corporate admin background, and just like I do as well, and it's like, we love things to be in its right place and all that sort of stuff. The reality is that business is just messy. And so you'll do something like a promotion of something, and then it's like, okay, what worked, what didn't, and really looking at what are you enjoying. So it's a little bit more like the brand, so the sacral chakra, in terms of, what do I like? What don't I like? What do my people like? What don't they like? And sort of, I see it as like a sieve. This is what I had. This is like the metaphor I had in my head most of last year. It's like having a sieve and just shaking it and things just dropping away and like keeping the pieces of gold at the top, you know. But it's a process, and it's about being okay with the process. Like, you know, just allowing things to drop away and allowing the other things to flourish. When it comes to up-leveling as well, I see that as stepping out of your comfort zone. So that is your solar plexus. So when I went to do those workshops, like, holy macks, that was a really big stepping out of my comfort zone. I had to travel internationally. I had to go to 3 cities in like 3 weeks, organize it all on my own, like all of these things. And but through doing that, I actually got more confidence and everything has flourished even more. And so for me, that's an example of up-leveling. So I think the up-level is actually, it's more than just new systems. I mean, that's kind of the practical kind of stuff. I think the up-level is when you really own your space and what it is you're doing, and people know you for what you do really clearly.
And it's a really vulnerable space to be in, I think. And I think that's probably where a lot of people's blocks come from, because in taking that next step and kind of standing up even more than you have been and saying, this is the thing I do and those are the things I don't do, people are going to be contacting you for that thing. So you bloody well better be good at it, sort of thing. So there's kind of that, you know, am I good enough? You know, all those stupid inner critic shit comes up again and starts to kind of ask you little questions and tell you little stories and all that sort of thing. So I think it's a really interesting one, but I totally agree with having that kind of structure. And I guess the other part about having that support, that the base chakra, is about having the right people around you, whether that's an accountability buddy or a coach or a partner or just someone who's sort of a peer that gets it, not just some random off the street, but someone who kind of can be with you in that space and can empathize with how you're feeling, but also help you kind of move through it so that you don't just sit there or go backwards or whatever. Or more importantly, so that wherever you go, you don't beat the hell out of yourself because of whatever's going on. So I think that's, I totally agree with all that.
I've got 2 examples around that, actually. The first one was when I came to Bali, I did not tell anybody that was my decision, because I knew, well, actually, I lied. I told my mum. My mum was my only person that I told because I knew she'd support me. And I told a couple of other people who I was working with at the time in the entrepreneurial space. But I didn't tell my best friends. I didn't even tell the rest of my family, because I knew all I was going to get was these questions that I couldn't answer, and them projecting their own fears on me. So, you know, Bali isn't always presented well in the media, and I still get people like, you know, saying, and I'm like, it's the most beautiful place ever. But, you know, whatever your experience is going to be what it is. But I think it's really important to keep that in mind. When I did the workshops as well, I did have a mindset coach on my side. Like, I don't actually think I could have done it if I didn't have his support for me to just be like, oh my God, this thing has come up. I need to, I need to sort this out. Because I mean, we all do it on our own anyway, but you know, just choosing who you've got by your side, knowing if you actually need that support too, is really important.
Yeah, beautiful. Cool. All right. So my next question is, and this is something that we obviously talked about in the workshop, and for all the listeners who are recovering perfectionists or on the road to rehab, where does perfectionism come in? How does it, like, where does that sit in your chakras? And, you know, what's the perfection story in Business Chakra System land?
It doesn't fit into one chakra. Because the chakra system, even though it's linear, so in our body it's linear, it goes through each area of our body. But I actually see it as a circle. So it's something that is a cycle and you go through it. Like, and I think this is where business is always messy. Like, it's not going to be perfect.
It's never finished.
Never finished, and it's never going to be perfect. And it's just about rinsing and repeating and doing that little shift shuffle thing.
Gold panning. We'll call it gold panning.
Gold panning. Yeah, I like that. That's cool. I think that's how it really operates, you know. Even though I'm really happy with my business right now and I've got great structure to it, it still needs a bit of gold panning, like it always does. And I have never actually put anything out. Oh, actually, no, I lie. At the beginning, I wanted everything to be perfect, and I put this huge amount of pressure on myself to do that. However, through doing lots of webinars actually in that first year, I learned how to really let go. I learned how to laugh at myself. I learned how to just go, you know what? It's okay. And what I thought was a stuff up, people were like, what are you talking about? Like,
It's totally fine.
Yeah, they don't mind. So the worst thing you can do, so actually I was saying this to someone the other day, the worst thing you can do, and I read this, was that if you put something out that's perfect, then it's probably not going to be right anyway. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because how do you know? Like, business is testing and trialing the whole way through. Like, and you just know in your mind, like, you put something out and then you'll go, okay, I'll put it out, see how it goes. I know how I would love that to be, but it's not like that yet. But maybe that's the up level. So when I can see that people really want this, and then I can go, right, I'll go back and I'll create new content, you know, on that or whatever it is. Like,
then I'll add the bells and whistles.
Yeah, exactly.
I do a similar thing, especially with like coaching clients who are trying to get over the initial block, whether it's there's like either starting a business or starting a new project or creating something within their business or even starting doing video content or something like that, right? Is to say, okay, what would 100% look like? Like, if you could say, all right, it's done, it's finished, I'm happy to move on to the next project, what would that look like? And, you know, get them to sort of explain that out. What would 150% look like? What if we added another heap of stuff? What would that look like? And then they go, oh, we'll do this. And what would 200% look like? Oh, we could also do this. All right, cool. That's awesome. Let's go back to the 100%, because that's what you originally said you'd be happy with, would be finished. But I think when we kind of get into this perfectionism / avoidance, we go, oh, I'm at 100%, but I'm just going to add another 10%. And then you get to the 10%, you think, oh, I better just go and do the and so on and so forth. So you're creeping up to that 200. The best thing, like similar to what you said, that I heard someone say probably a year ago, that said, just remember, your 100% is someone else's 60%. Oh no, your 60% is someone else's 160%. Something along those lines.
Yes.
Stuck with me, because I know everyone's got a thing that they're absolutely brilliant at, and that's not the same between any two people, right? And so it kind of gives you a bit of a like, I don't know, hall pass, like, to be not completely perfect, because it's still it's still helping someone else. You're still further ahead in that journey or in that process than a heap of other people are, who aren't ready for the 200% because it's too overwhelming. They just need the 100%. They just need the next thing. And by the time they've done that with you, then you can be ready to do the next 100% as well.
Exactly. And I think I've got a really cool story about this, because a lot of the time you can forget about the people that you're actually serving. Like, you can get so caught up in the creating of the stuff that you actually forget about what is your client going to benefit and how are they going to use information. Because I was in Singapore last week helping a client, and I was in the hotel and it was raining outside, and they had an outdoor area and an indoor area to eat. And they said to me, oh, you know, we've got tables outside. I said, I'm really sorry, I'd love to work inside, because it was nicer inside and I wanted to work on my computer and stuff. And they said, you'll have to wait. And I was like, that's cool, I'll wait. And, you know, 5 minutes later, they said, table's ready. And so they took me all the way through everyone, past everyone, into this little room, which was like their VIP room. And I was like, oh, they've just upgraded me to this nice area. But to be honest, it was a little bit stale for me. Like, you know, I actually like the ambience of a cafe and all of that sort of stuff. But the Wi-Fi wouldn't reach the room. So what I wanted to do, I actually couldn't do it anyway. And I ended up having to ask them again if I could move back. And so it was like they were trying to make me feel special. Right. In actual fact, I just wanted to be in the cafe with the Wi-Fi doing my thing. Make sure that our clients and our customers are receiving what they need for them to take the next step first.
Totally. And what's relevant. And I love that. That's an awesome moment. I love it. Well, lovely. We could literally sit here and talk about this all day, I'm sure, but I think we better wrap up.
Okay.
So how can people get in touch with you and learn more about the Business Chakra System and more about the Mel Midegs version of life and business?
Yeah, so I'm definitely on social media, on Facebook under Melanie Midegs. My website is seeksoul.com.au, and there's some free training on there about the Business Chakra System if anyone wants to jump on there. And on Instagram is basically where I am, under Melanie Midegs as well. So they're the three places.
All the links will be in show notes as well, so people can follow those links. And thank you so much for coming on the show. As always, I've loved chatting with you.
And if anyone comes over to Bali, make sure they get in touch with me. I love meeting entrepreneurs. Super international over here. It's awesome.
Oh, I can't wait to come back. I've got a real bug about it at the moment. We've been planning America or Europe, and now we're like, oh, it's all kind of going a bit crazy at the moment. Let's just go back to Bali. Let's just go and live in Bali. Let's just go to Bali and forget the rest of the world, basically.
Yeah. Come to the Bali bubble.
That's it. All right, lovely. Thanks again for coming on, and we'll talk really soon.
Thank you for having me. It's been awesome talking to you.
No worries. See ya. And that is absolutely it, my lovely. So I hope you've really enjoyed the episode. It was great fun recording that one, as it is with all of them. If you'd like to connect, I'd love to stay in touch with you. I have a beautiful Facebook group community at bit.ly/The Recovering Perfectionist Crew with all capital T, R, P and C. I have a massive goal this year to get 50,000 downloads on my podcast, and I've got a YouTube show as well. So I'd love for you to help me out if you can by either subscribing to the podcast on iTunes. So if you want to go over and do that now, that would be awesome. If you have a couple of favourite episodes, or if there's one favourite episode that you've really enjoyed, I would love you to share that with anyone who you think would get as much out of it as you have as well. And while you're in iTunes, if you can jump in and give it a review, that would be amazing. iTunes definitely helps out podcasts that have got some good ratings and reviews and some really interactive listeners. So I would really appreciate your help with getting to my goal of 50,000 in 2017. The show is also available over on YouTube. The links are always in the show notes, so you can head over there. So it's The Recovering Perfectionist on YouTube. There's a channel for that as well. So jump in and leave your comments. You can watch all of the episodes in video. So if you want to see what we look like and our crazy hand gestures and facial expressions and all of that sort of thing, absolutely jump in. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel show as well, and then you'll be kept up to date when there's some new episodes that come in there. So yeah, love your support. And if you want to shoot me an email, it's hello@clairebarton.com.au. Always happy to receive your emails and open up a conversation. All right, big love. I'll chat with you soon. Bye.